Okay, hi guys. Look, we are back with another podcast episode. I purposefully did not commit to a posting cadence last time because I don't know, I just kind of wanted to feel it out. I think for now it is going to be monthly, which I know is so silly. Like, what podcast posts monthly? But I have been working a lot as a content creator. So I figure I'll start here and then maybe as I get into the groove of things, we can sort of pick up the frequency. Like, I'd love to get to like once every 2 weeks, even weekly. I know there are podcasts that post twice a week, which is crazy to me. I did get some comments and like unsolicited advice that I kind of want to respond to, but it's just not related to today's topic. And I eventually do want to do episodes on like therapy and attachment styles, so I feel like we can talk about it then. But I got so many comments and like DMs on Instagram of people being like, this is exactly how I feel. And that made me so happy. Well, no, not happy because I don't want anyone to feel the way that I feel. But I know, especially if like a lot of your friends are in relationships, it can be hard to find the space to just like vent and talk about your fears and like complain about being single. So getting messages that like I described exactly how you feel or like, oh, this made me feel so seen. That means a lot to me. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I'm trying to find like where I feel the greatest sense of purpose as a content creator. And I mean, those messages, I try to respond to all of them, but even if I don't, like I see all of them and it really, really does mean a lot to me, like more than you guys know. And with that, let's get into today's topic, which is a dopamine menu. I guess it is still kind of related to the last episode, because basically I've been going through it a little bit, right? And one thing that my roommate suggested actually is like just make a list of things that make you happy. Well, I guess a good place to start is like, what is dopamine? I'm assuming everyone knows what that is. And actually, let me look this up. I don't want to like spew just, absolute falsehoods. And I am definitely not a STEM major. Okay. Dopamine is a chemical messenger that affects many functions in the body, including pleasure, movement, motivation, learning and attention, mood. Dopamine acts on areas of the brain to give you feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. So people call it like the happy chemical. That's what it's commonly known as. So yeah, dopamine menu is basically just a list of things that make you happy. And I actually had not done this before. What I used to do to try to get me out of a funk in my journal was a gratitude list. There's like a lot of research, I think, on how happiness is really grounded in gratitude. But I don't know, this would like really backfire for me. And I don't know if this is just a me problem. I have like a very blessed life, not to flex on y'all, but like I have a very loving and functional family. I have amazing friends. Like I'm financially secure. My health is good. So when I make my gratitude list, I'm just like, this is such an amazing life. And so many people would kill to have even one of the items on this list. Why are you such an ungrateful bitch? And then it just leads into a spiral of me like beating myself up and being like, why are you sad about a boy when you have like such an amazing life? Like boys don't even matter. And I don't know, it just like goes downhill from there. So I stopped doing gratitude lists. I do think like a daily gratitude list, like little small things that you're grateful for could be good, but I wanted my dopamine menu. Like the reason it's called a menu is because you should be able to order off of it. So instead of things that I just like think about that should make me happier, I wanted them to be like actionable things that I could go do. Okay, well, here's actually one thing that I want to kind of disclaim first. When you're really going through it with your mental health, like really in the throes of depression or anxiety, it's often very difficult to do anything. So I don't know that like an action-oriented list is really what you need when you're in that headspace. I think this has been more relevant for me as I like am trying to get my life back together and kind of come out of it. Like it's something that I've been working on in October, because I think in August and September I was just focused on like fighting for my life. And the other thing I'll say is that when you're not in a good place mentally, like a lot of the things that normally make you happy don't make you happy. That's how a lot of people define depression. So sometimes you will try things on your dopamine menu and they won't necessarily work, and that's okay. I feel like I'm really not doing a good job of selling the concept of a dopamine menu, but it's something that I've been trying. And I think even the exercise of making the list, even if you don't use the menu, so to speak, is still helpful. And so I figured it'd be fun to just talk through my dopamine menu, what I wrote down, and maybe you can use it as inspiration. I don't know, you know how like pick me girls are like, oh, I'm not like the other girls. I am exactly like the other girls, so I would not be surprised if a lot of these things are like the same things on your list or things that you find relatable. And I'm also going to try and talk about why these things make me happy as opposed to just listing random things. I would recommend keeping a running list, like either in your notes app or in your journal, because when I first sat down to write this list, I honestly couldn't think of that many things, and that kind of like depressed me more. But things will come to you over time, or like you'll do something and be like, oh, surprisingly, that did make me feel a little bit better. So the first thing on my list, this is going to be a huge shocker, is knitting and crocheting. And I'm actually not going to go into this at all because I do want to do a podcast episode on why I love knitting and crocheting. I've touched on this before, but it's like really not about making clothes. I have a whole thesis on how it's like an alternative to doom scrolling and our generation where our dopamine receptors are just being fried to hell and back. And yeah, I have a lot to say on that, so we are just not going to get into it at all. But obviously, fiber arts make me very happy, in case you haven't picked up on that. Under this, I put beautiful snack, which is such a funny phrase. But basically, you know when you prepare yourself a little snack, and it doesn't have to be like culinary genius or like very complicated, but like you put it on a little aesthetic piece of pottery or like plate. So for me, there's this like yogurt bowl that I eat a lot. Like I just take Faya yogurt, which is the best yogurt in my opinion, and then I'll put some fruit on top of it and then some honey and I'll eat it, right? But like sometimes I'll make it with pears, and that is not aesthetic because then it's just like this big bowl of like white beige food and it's like not cute. But when I make it with nectarines, and it's like a really beautiful colored nectarine, and I actually lay the pieces out on the yogurt instead of just chucking them in, which is what I do sometimes, and it's just like the way the light hits it does something for me, okay? And I don't know, I feel like our generation has become so obsessed with aesthetics. Like even the word aesthetic is kind of a meme at this point, but there is a reason that people make things aesthetic, okay? There's a reason that like restaurants and cafes will make their interiors really pretty. There is joy to be found in beauty, and I don't think that's something that should be looked down upon. So my little beautiful snack, it's like, you know, gonna nourish my body and taste good, but it also just looks pretty. And sometimes when you're having a really bad day, that little nectarine bowl in the sunlight just gives you like the tiniest hit of dopamine, okay? Okay, under this, I kind of just listed a lot of beverages that I like. Boba, iced coffee, iced matcha, overpriced specialty latte. The point is, it's going out and getting a beverage, and I mean, this is like really not a unique experience. I'm convinced that the act of getting a bevy and going on a walk is the only thing that's like propping up the sanity of women in New York City, maybe women everywhere. And it's kind of like a meme, right? Like I literally have a meme that I'm going to post tonight on Instagram in a dump. And it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, you know, what humans need. And they just crossed out all the different layers and wrote getting a coffee and going on a walk. But there's a reason that that is like a dopamine menu item for so many people. I feel like there are a few facets to it, right? First, it's like getting out of the house. I mean, this is like the hardest thing to do when you're like really in a pit of despair. But there's something to be said about leaving the house, like experiencing sunshine and just seeing that there are other human beings out there. This is something that I've mentioned when I talk about why I love New York. And that's another podcast episode I want to do, like why I love and hate New York. Just being in a sea of humans and being reminded that you are just like one small person in this great big world, which I guess to some people can feel like make you feel small. But for me, I think I need that. Like that feeling is what gets me out of my head and makes me stop like blowing my own problems and my own life out of proportion. So yeah, getting out of the house, that's important. Next, you're doing something active, even if you're not going on a walk after you get your bevy, even if you're just like walking 5 minutes and getting the coffee, that's still some physical activity. And as much as I hate to admit it, because I famously do not work out, being active does release dopamine, and it is really good for your mental health and your physical health and your life longevity and your brain and everything. So any form and any amount of physical activity is usually gonna be a good thing, whether you're going through it or whether you're not, but especially when you're going through it. And the other thing is like this idea of treating yourself, like allowing yourself this treat. My friends laugh at me because I still always like debate whether I should get the beverage, and I like think about whether I deserve it. And my friends are like, this, sub $10 purchase is not going to make or break you financially. And part of it is me being cheap and not wanting to spend like $9 on a freaking bevy. But it's also this idea of like maintaining the sanctity of a bevy as a treat, as like a luxury. Because if you go out every single day and like get an iced coffee at a cafe, I mean, I'm sure it's still like a highlight of your day, but it stops being a luxury. And I like the fact that when I'm having a bad day, this is a lever I can pull, right? Like I can allow myself this thing I normally don't allow myself. Even if I make iced coffee at home, it's still not the same like going out and buying one that someone made for you. And so I think the bevy walk combo should not be memed and should not be looked down upon. Like, it is probably my go-to thing to do when I'm feeling down. And I honestly feel like it's a relatively healthy coping mechanism. Okay, the next thing I wrote is memes. If you follow me on Instagram, this should be no surprise to you. Like, basically, my normal posting format on Instagram is I post like a bunch of aesthetic photos of like myself or just like pretty things, and it's all like very much a vibe. And then the last frame in the dump is just some meme. I honestly do not post the super out of pocket ones, okay? Like those stay between me and my friends. But I love it because it adds like some personality and humor. And also it's like my way of kind of like telling people where I'm at, Like a lot of my fall winter memes are about how the sun sets too freaking early, or about how I never leave my room, or how I'm not at the function, or like after I get fumbled by a guy, I'm posting a lot of memes about how you're not going to be allowed into heaven's gates because you fumbled an angel, the angel being me. There is a reason that like memes in the modern format have only been around for like a few decades, but there's a reason that like some version of memes have always existed, right? It's like on the basis of relatability. And I am someone where like feeling seen means a lot to me. Like one of my biggest fears, or not like fears, but like one of the things I hate the most is when I get the sense that another person does not understand how I feel or can't relate, right? And it's great to like talk to a friend for them to like really make you feel seen, but that's like a lot of emotional labor to go through. I think memes are the most like low investment, lighthearted format of like finding human connection and understanding that other people are experiencing the same things as you and feeling the same things as you. Like my screenshots folder is, you would have to like blackmail me to expose that because I've just like screenshotted so many random memes on Instagram and TikTok, and I follow so many meme pages. Okay, like me and one of my really good friends, we've just not been having a grand time the past few months, okay? And our Instagram conversation is literally us just sending each other the most like dumb memes about not having your life together. One of my recent obsessions has been this meme page called Just Bibble. I don't know if you know who Bibble is. He's from the Barbie movies. He kind of looks like Sully from Monsters, Inc., but he's like tiny. And I guess he's a fairy because he can fly. I don't really know. It's so dumb, but like we send them to each other and it makes me laugh. And I feel like if you can find relatability and levity and laughter all in a small, low quality image with some text on it, that's a pretty good deal. So when I was making my dopamine menu, just listing these things that make me happy, I did notice that a lot of things had to do with productivity. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, capitalism is so ingrained in me that I don't think I'm worthy unless I have output. But some of these things, like cleaning my room or doing errands I've been putting off, it's really not about the output. It's that sense of accomplishment. Like people say that dopamine is the happy chemical, which it is, but it's also like the motivation chemical. That dopamine hit is what gets you to do the next task. And I feel like when you get to a bad place mentally, it's usually a downward spiral. Like it starts with, I can't get out of bed, I'm falling behind on work, and then the workload builds up, you get more stressed about that, you start to see yourself as someone who can't get your life together, and it's just one big positive feedback loop. But I feel like the way to get out of that is also a positive feedback loop. That's why when people are depressed, they always say, like, just try to get up and take a shower, because hopefully you will feel marginally better from doing that one task, and that will motivate you to do the next thing, and you just go from there. It's really just about rebuilding your confidence and your sense of self, and that feeling that you are able to do the things that you need to do. I'm just finally starting to realize that, like, being hard on myself is honestly so detrimental to my happiness and my productivity. Like, let's say I finally drop off a package after weeks. Instead of beating myself up and being like, that was so easy, why did it take so long? I just allow myself to feel proud and feel that sense of accomplishment, and then I'm much more likely to be motivated to go and do the next thing. So some of the things I have on here, well, I guess clean room is kind of about the output. Like, what's the saying? The state of your space reflects the state of your mind, or whatever. It is really true. Like, if I wake up in the morning and my room is messy versus my room being clean, I think it will take me at least 2 times as long to get out of bed, because I already feel like so overwhelmed by what I have to do. I already feel like my life is not together, versus if I wake up and everything is sparkling, I'm like, let me just hop out of bed and like start being productive. Because also just like practically for me, like my work is filming, and so if my room is messy, that's just like another step I have to take before I can actually do the thing I need to do. I'm like, fuck, I need to like put away 14 million things before I can even turn the camera on, you know? And the other thing that I mentioned was running errands that I've been putting off. I am definitely the kind of person where if I have outstanding tasks, they kind of loom over me, and the longer I don't do them, the more of my mental real estate they take up. So, for example, I know I keep mentioning this, like dropping off returns, but it really is such a thing for me. If I have a box I need to drop off at UPS, the longer it sits in my room, the more daunting that task feels, and the more it adds to the sense of like, oh, I have so many things to do that I haven't gotten done. So running these errands, like, yes, it's about checking those things off my list, but it's also just kind of like grounds me into the fact that these things that are causing me so much stress are actually not that big of a deal. Like, once I actually go to do them, I'm like, this is, you know, it's manageable. Okay, one thing I wrote that I actually did not even understand at first, I had to think about what I meant. I wrote, when I make something not bad. That's in reference to cooking. I've kind of mentioned this before. I'm not a great cook, and I actually don't think like my intuition or my talent is just like horrendous and I'm hopeless. I think it's more like I never learned the foundational skills, and I just like saw the fact that my dad was able to cook without a recipe, and I was like, oh, I should be able to do that too. But I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't have enough skills to be freestyling yet. It's like if you tried to freehand crochet when you don't know how to make a square. And so I've finally reached this era where I've accepted I need to follow recipes and like understand how things are done. And then I can start to do my own thing and wing it from there. Honestly, like, I'm not that good at following recipes. Like, some of them turn out well and some of them don't. But the feeling when I follow a recipe and it actually does taste and look good, that does huge things for me. Huge dopamine hit. Okay, one other thing I wrote that definitely falls under this category is making checklists. I am a double Virgo, so that definitely tracks for me. And like I said, I often just get this sense of like feeling very overwhelmed, and it helps so much to write down what I need to do. Sometimes like I write it down, I'm like, this actually is a lot that I need to do, but even just having it on paper helps. I also have developed this weird habit recently of making daily checklists. So like I'll take what I need to do for the week and I'll separate it out by day. And let me tell you, I do not adhere to this at all. Adherence to the checklist is like maybe 10% at best. And I usually don't do everything on it either, but at least gives me a sense of like, oh, it is physically possible to do all the things I need to do this week within the next 5 days. It's not so much about having the plan as feeling like you have a plan. And everyone knows you get a dopamine hit from checking something off a checklist. Like, there are so many memes about like adding something to a checklist just so you can check it off. But again, it's that same thing of like allowing yourself to feel a sense of accomplishment from one task and then using that to motivate you to go and do the next task. So I love a checklist. As soon as I start to feel like I don't have a grasp of my life, I'm like, let me just start making this unhinged 2-week checklist because I know that it will make me feel better. Okay, looking at this list, another theme I'm kind of noticing is look good, feel good, which I don't think will come as a surprise to anyone. Like, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have, or just looking like someone who has their life together will make you feel like you have your life more together. If I just like put on some concealer and a half decent outfit, I feel like I will get so much more done when I go to a cafe than if I just like pull up bumming in my sweats. Recently, I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of slaying. Like, I've been eating on the gram. I ran into a friend recently and she was like, Grace, like your photos on Instagram recently have been insane. You look so good. And I'm like, well, that's because I got fumbled and this is how I'm coping with it. I will say this coping mechanism of like glowing up or looking really hot, it definitely has its limits. I think it worked for me, or not worked, but like it helped maybe the first few weeks or the first month. And I'm definitely kind of hitting a wall where it's wearing off and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm hot, but I was already hot before. It doesn't really change the fact that I got treated like shit. But I think there's something to be said, not just about looking hot and getting a confidence boost from that, but also kind of finding something new, like a new look. For example, I just ordered these kind of like rectangular wireframe glasses because I love the like office siren, sexy librarian kind of look. And I will literally add it to the most basic outfit, like what I'm wearing today, like black tank and jeans. And I'll be like, okay, wait, this is giving. It's a different look. It's a different vibe. Or I also ordered, you have seen them if you follow me on Instagram, these like thigh-high lace stockings. And I usually wear like a lot of like knee-high socks, stuff like that. I did a lot of that last year as well in the fall. But these ones just like, they make a look so spicy. I have this outfit that's like the wireframe glasses, and a like off the shoulder gray bodycon dress, and then those like thigh-high lace stockings and black heels. And I outfit repeat a lot in real life, but I normally don't outfit repeat on Instagram. I posted 2 photo sets of that outfit within the same like 2 weeks because I was like, I look so good in this. Honestly, you are blessed to see it twice. And it's not just the fact that I look hot, it's the fact that it's like it's like a new look for me. And the same could be said about my bangs. I'm kind of like growing them out right now, so you can't really see them today. At the time, I told everyone like this is not a cry for help. I am just getting really on theme to go see Sabrina Carpenter. In hindsight, it was definitely a cry for help, but I don't know, like the bangs kind of did something. Like they really made me feel better for a while because like, yeah, my hair usually looks good, but I'm like, oh, now my hair looks good in a new way. So it feels more like an incremental add of something to your life versus looking hot in the same way that you normally look hot. Okay, another thing I put on this list that definitely falls into this category is new nails. Y'all don't understand how much higher my quality of life is when my nails are done. Like I obviously look at my hands a lot. I film my hands a lot. And when they look nice and they have a really fun design, it makes my life so much better. And here's the thing, like I am not a big, what do they call it? It's like shopping therapy, but consumer therapy, retail therapy. Wow, I really forgot that term for a second. I actually don't think I'm a big retail therapy person. Buying new things doesn't give me a dopamine hit. And I honestly find shopping not that enjoyable because I get really bad decision paralysis. Like if I buy a new item and then I go home and I style it into like a really cool outfit, that will do something for me, but the purchase alone doesn't. And I think there are ways to, bring new items into your life and like use consumerism to make you feel better that are still financially and environmentally responsible. Like don't go place a $500 Shein order because you're sad. So for me, I like really small purchases. Like I got this silver metal bow claw clip thing when I was in Copenhagen, and like using that makes me really happy because it's like a very different vibe from my normal claw clips. I also have been buying like bag charms, like really affordable. They're really small, and just adding them to my different purses and like switching them out to match the vibe of my outfit. And that is just like a little incremental bit of joy. I don't know. Like I was saying earlier about my nectarine yogurt bowl, there's nothing wrong with finding joy in pretty things. Like that is beauty is beauty. Okay, looking at this list and the things I haven't covered, most of them fit under this is, I don't know how to describe this. I would call this category like intentional rest slash getting a fresh start slash aesthetics, kind of. What a good theme. Basically, like, the first thing under this kind of category that I wrote down is an everything shower. If you're not familiar with this term, it's like the shower where you do everything, right? So like if you're someone who shaves, like you shave your whole body. For me, this means like I will pluck my eyebrows. I will do like a pore cleansing face mask. I will do a body scrub. I will actually moisturize after the shower. This is like a thing for me. Like, I don't know, I guess my skin isn't dry enough, but like I rarely actually put on lotion after the shower. And I mean, the reason that this term even exists is because obviously an everything shower is like doing something for people. Like it is a form of self-care. But the thing that makes it self-care is like the intention behind it. So how would I say this? Not every shower where I do everything is an everything shower. If I'm taking an everything shower just because I'm literally dirty and I need to, that doesn't really count to me. Like an everything shower for me is when I'm like, I want to set aside time and space to like nourish my body and take care of myself and invest in like relaxation. Like what's another very stereotypical self-care thing? It's like doing face masks. Like doing a face mask on its own is not self-care. If I like look in the mirror and I'm like, shit, your skin looks so bad, maybe this mask will help, and then I just put it on and then like go straight back into doing my work. That's not really self-care. A self-care face mask is when I like put it on and like invest in creating a space of relaxation and recovery. So like there are a few other things on my list that are kind of similar. I put candles, I put tea in bed. These are things that I do a lot, right? Like I light a candle almost every day. Yesterday I literally lit a candle and it was going for 5-6 hours and I forgot about it. And that to me doesn't count. I also acclimate to scents really quickly. So it's like, I didn't even notice it was there. It wasn't doing anything for me. Same thing with drinking tea. Like I'm usually drinking tea throughout the day, and that is not what I mean when I put it on my list. I'm talking about when I set aside time to put on the face mask, get in bed, light a candle, spray my like Frenchie favorite scent linen mist on my bed, and then put like a mug of my favorite tea next to my bed, and then just give myself time to journal or like listen to my favorite podcast or my favorite audiobook or like watch my favorite show. That counts because that is very intentionally doing something to care for yourself and because you know it will make you feel better. And I think that goes for like pretty much everything on a dopamine menu. If you don't do it without some level of intention, it probably won't have as noticeable of an impact on like your happiness or your mood. And then the last few things that like kind of fall under this category, but I guess also kind of fall under aesthetics, I put lying in the sun. I mean, I think like we know that vitamin D matters for your mood, so I guess scientifically that also makes sense. But like the feeling of the sun on your skin, that words cannot describe like what that does for me, and I think what that does for a lot of people. And then I put sparkling water, which I actually got really confused about because I thought I meant like bubbly fizzy water, which is also on my dopamine menu. If you know me, like I will drink anything sparkling over something flat any day. I love fizzy stuff. But no, what I meant is when the sun shines on a body of water like ocean or lake and it sparkles, that is like so beautiful to me. That's one of the things that I feel like we are missing a word for in English. I feel like other languages probably have a term for it. If you speak a language where there's a word or a term for that, please let me know in the comments. It's like how there's this Japanese word komorebi that's actually the name of one of my crochet patterns. And that describes like the kind of dappled pattern that's created on the floor when sunlight shines through like leaves and trees. I need an equivalent of that word, but for my sparkling water so that I can stop calling it sparkling water. But if you've been watching my recent videos, you've probably noticed I've been going to Domino Park a lot. It's this waterfront park pretty close to me. And it's just a place where you can like sit in the grass or sit on a bench and like people watch. And you can see the Manhattan skyline. And if you're there at the right time, like you can see the sunset. And I joke, well, no, it's not a joke. I'm like completely serious. There is a correlation between how much time I spend at Domino Park and my mental state. It's an inverse correlation. Basically, I go there a lot when I'm kind of going through it. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it doesn't make me feel that much better. But like having a little bit of sun on my skin, seeing that other humans exist, seeing my sparkling water, and just like being reminded that like I literally live in New York City and so many movie scenes are shot in that park because I live in such an iconic place, it will make me feel at least 1% better. And when you're really going through it, like even 1% counts, you know? I'm trying to see if there's anything that I didn't cover. I put biking, which is like kind of a joke because I think I've literally biked in New York one time, but biking is actually amazing for when you're going through it because you get like the endorphins from the exercise, but also just like the wind in your hair and like it's a whole thing. Okay, I studied abroad in Copenhagen my senior fall and I was so much happier there, and I feel like the fact that I biked to get around was a huge part of it. But obviously biking in New York City versus biking in Copenhagen are very different experiences, and the likelihood that I would die is like significantly higher here, especially because I'm not like the most skilled biker. So I was comfortable biking in Copenhagen where I had my own lane and my own lights, but biking here, I also have like a horrible sense of direction. So I can only bike if like I already know exactly where I'm going. If I try and do navigation on my phone at the same time or like look at street signs, it's over for me. There's like this thing where you can put in earbuds and like play the navigation and have it talk to you, but that somehow also doesn't work for me. I think what I'm realizing is like a running theme is just being kind to myself, and that can manifest in a lot of ways, right? Like allowing myself to buy an overpriced beverage or a sweet little treat, or allowing myself to feel proud for accomplishing the most basic task, or acknowledging like I'm burnt out, and instead of trying to push myself to more productivity, I need to intentionally invest some time in myself and give myself some time to relax and rest and recover, and that will eventually pay off in me being able to like get back on the horse again, and just not constantly feeling like you're on a hamster wheel and there's so many more things to do. Like something I'm trying to get in the habit of doing is just giving myself a few minutes before I go to sleep, and my sleep schedule is fucked. So at this point it's often like 3 a.m. So I really should not be pushing my bedtime back anymore. But even if it's like 5, 10, 15 minutes, I do a lot of the things that I mentioned earlier. So like I turn off the overhead light, I turn on the more whatever, like vibey ambient lighting. I light the candle, I spray the linen mist, and I just journal or let myself well, actually I can't let myself crochet because then I will like not be able to stop and then I'll never sleep. But just giving myself time at the end of the day, even if I had like the most unproductive, horrible day, being like, I am not a machine, I deserve this time. And I'm just rambling at this point. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I feel like it's definitely less structured than some of my other ones. The whole what things I'm afraid to confess as a single 27-year-old, I obviously had to outline that one a little bit, because if I had just turned the camera on and started yapping, that would have been therapy and I would have started crying. I don't know. I'm glad I did this, because when I was talking to my roommate last night, I was like, I don't know if this episode is even worth recording or if it's even good, because I was like, my list is just so many random things. Like, I don't think I have any takeaways. But once I actually started talking about why these things made me happy, I feel like I did have takeaways and I did start to realize the common themes of like what makes me happy. So I highly recommend that you guys just try it, even as an exercise. Keep a running list. Let me know in the comments what's on your list. If there are any things on my list that resonate with you, which I'm sure there are because I am one basic bitch. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.
You left the kitchen light on and it's 2 to go to there. It's better in your